Noel is a weak grandchild of a legendary hero. His only ability is to talk, but then he could easily rizz everyone with his tongue and form a party to rule the world. Imagine showing up to a dragon fight with a megaphone instead of a sword. But before we get too comfy, things escalate quickly. The abyss opens up and demons are pouring into his village. Who steps up? Noel's grandpa, of course. The OG of the family, axe in hand, ready to prove that retirement is for quitters. He tells Noel to stay put while he handles things. Now, grandpa's resume is no joke. The man's taken down a level 13 demon before, and people literally call him Overdeath. That's a name that makes Doom Guy sound like a Boy Scout.
I'm in a drive-through a Burger King.
But Noel knows the truth. No cavalry is coming, and one old man against an army of demons isn't a fight, it's a farewell tour. Grandpa fights hard, swinging his axe like it's the last mosh pit of his life. For a while, he's holding his own, slicing through demons, but eventually the numbers catch up. By the time Noel finds him, Grandpa's beat down. With his last breath, he apologizes, not for losing, but for not living up to his promise to protect everyone. Then he hits Noel with a classic anime deathbed speech, asking if Noel will still walk this dangerous path after seeing how brutal it is. Noel, full of determination and probably trauma, promises to become the world's strongest seeker, even if he has to carry the talker class all the way to the top. Fast forward years later during a mission, Noel is now leading a team. Walter the warrior, Tanya the healer, and Lloyd the swordsman. On paper, it looks like a balanced squad. In practice, well, let's just say morale's a little shaky. Their current job? Taking out a dungeon full of lesser vampires. These things are like cockroaches on steroids. They don't use magic, but they're tough as nails, multiply fast, and unless you go for the head, they'll be back up in time for round 2. Noel tries to keep the squad focused, warning them not to underestimate the swarm. Walter, however, is already tired of the side quest grind. He suggests skipping the small fry and charging the vampire queen directly to wrap it all up faster. Noel immediately shuts him down. Because yeah, let's definitely try to fight the boss while we're surrounded by her respawning army. That'll end well. Walter doesn't argue much, but he gets snarky, throwing shade about Noel's class, basically saying that the only reason he listens to Noel is because the system says he's the talker. Here's the thing, Noel's class does give him the ability to buff his allies' stats with words of encouragement, but when you're the weakest in combat, that eats at you. Imagine giving a TED talk while your friends are fighting vampires. Not great for the ego. Before Noel can clap back, he spots trouble, a vampire clinging to the ceiling like Spider-Man's emo cousin. It's the queen. He shouts for the squad to take cover just as the monster drops a toxic gas cloud. Noel gets stuck right in the middle of it. He starts choking on fumes. Without Noel's buffs, Walter and Lloyd are struggling hard. Walter yells for Noel to get his head back in the game. This hits a nerve. Noel flashes back to his grandpa's death and vows not to let history repeat itself. He pulls himself together, downs a health potion like it's Gatorade, and finally shows what a talker can do. With one command, his tactician skill boosts the squad's power by 25%. Then he layers it with battle voice, juicing their stamina and mana. Boom! Suddenly, the team's fighting like they've been through a Rocky training montage. The tide turns. Lloyd's swinging, Walter's smashing, and Tanya's healing like an angel with a caffeine problem. But Noel's not done. He calculates they'll need exactly 74 seconds to win if everything goes perfectly, because of course he does. He's basically part strategist, part Excel spreadsheet in human form. Then comes the big gamble. Noel's down to one magic bullet in his gun. He could use it to freeze the last vampire coming for him, but instead he aims at the queen. It's not enough to kill her, but it's the perfect distraction. Walter and Lloyd seize the moment, launch their ultimates, and obliterate her. Victory, right? Not quite. As the queen falls, one last vampire lunges and stabs Noel. Tanya screams, but it's all part of the plan. Noel calculated the queen's death would cause her minions to collapse, and he timed it so the blow would land just as the vampire turned into a corpse. High risk, high reward. The squad wins, and the abyss around them fades away. Back in the capital of Atria, the team collects their reward, 5 million fil. Nice, but after splitting costs, taxes, and equipment, it boils down to just 250k each. Tanya complains, Walter cracks jokes, and Noel? Well, Noel's thinking big picture. He doesn't want to stay a mid-tier squad forever. He proposes using their pooled savings to start their own clan. There's silence. Lloyd does the math. It'll cost 20 million to even register a clan, and they only have 12.8 million saved. Noel says, no problem. He'll add in another 7.2 million of his own money to cover it. Walter's all for it, dreaming about fame and fortune. Tanya's skeptical, reminding everyone they're still just C-rank rookies. Noel doesn't flinch. He studied clans, management, leadership. He's ready. He believes if they don't leave now, they'll never be ready. But then, betrayal. Later that day, Walter rushes in, panicked. Lloyd and Tanya had gone, and so is all their money. Yep, Noel's dream of running the world's greatest clan just got sucker punched. After discovering the letter, Noel finally pieces together the ugly truth. Lloyd, the so-called knight in shining armor, had been neck-deep in gambling debt for years. He blew his savings on shitty investments when they were hot, tanked his money when they weren't, and now was desperate enough to swipe the team's entire stash. The betrayal stings, but the irony makes Noel laugh. Lloyd always paraded around like some noble, knightly protector, yet at the first real chance he acted like a shady casino addict on payday. Noel asks Walter when and where he got the letter. Walter explains he'd gone to check on Lloyd earlier that morning with news of a job, but by then Lloyd had already skipped town, The innkeeper casually handed over the note saying Lloyd and Tanya left around 8:30 p.m. the night before, just before the city gates closed. Lloyd clearly planned the timing, hoping the gap between departure and discovery would give him a good head start. Unfortunately for him, Noel wasn't the type to take Betrayal lying down. It's 9:30 a.m. now, which means Lloyd and Tanya are already half a day ahead. Still, Noel knows the city keeps gate records, and if they left on foot, the trail is traceable. Walter is eager to chase them down immediately, but Noel reins him in. He points out that this isn't just about recovering money. Betrayal cuts deeper. If they confront Lloyd and Tanya, it's not going to end with hugs and apologies. It could easily turn bloody. Even so, Noel refuses to let them walk away clean. They'll pay, one way or another. Instead of galloping straight out of the city, Noel drags Walter into a tavern. Walter is confused, but Noel doesn't bother explaining. In his head, Walter isn't sharp enough to understand the strategy anyway. Once inside, Noel makes a bold announcement to the entire tavern. He tells the crowd that 2 of his party members ran off with their shared savings, and he's putting a bounty of 2 million fills on their heads for anyone who brings them back alive. Walter panics, horrified that Noel just aired their dirty laundry in front of a room full of mercenaries and seekers, but Noel has his reasons. This was just bait. He wasn't just looking for any random help, he was trying to draw out someone specific. The Lightning Bike crew jumps on the opportunity first, eager for the payday. Noel hands them all the details about Lloyd and Tanya's escape, letting them race off on the trail. A handful of other groups join as well, but Noel keeps waiting. Then, right on cue, a sketchy old man approaches him. Noel immediately knows this is the one he's been looking for. The man claims he saw Lloyd and Tanya leave the city and even knows which direction they went. The problem is, his crew is too weak to fight them alone. Noel offers to team up, but makes it clear that the man will only get 1 million, not the full 2. The old man tries to negotiate, but quickly folds when Noel reminds him he has no leverage. They agree to meet at the south gate, and Noel tells Walter to wait there as well. Walter, still bewildered, goes along with it. When Noel arrives later, Walter nervously asks if he's truly prepared to fight Lloyd and Tanya. Noel doesn't hesitate. Of course he is. To him, they betrayed the crew, and betrayal earns no mercy. If he has to kill them, he will. Walter is stunned, realizing Noel never truly trusted them in the first place. Noel admits as much, explaining that he's always had backup plans for betrayal, including one for Walter himself if necessary. That chilling revelation shakes Walter, who starts to realize he might be the only one still clinging to the idea of loyalty. Meanwhile, in a small village not far away, Lloyd and Tanya relax, believing they're in the clear. Lloyd reassures Tanya that Noel would never bother chasing them since the money is already gone. But Lloyd underestimates just how petty and relentless Noel really is. Soon enough, Noel and a squad of allies appear, cutting off their escape. Lloyd reaches for his sword, but Noel immobilizes both him and Tanya using his powers. Walter unleashes his pent-up anger, furious at Lloyd for betraying them. Noel doesn't waste time and immediately demands answers about the party's funds. He's well aware the long-term savings are gone, but he's curious about the payout from the recent vampire hunt. Lloyd tries to claim it's gone too, but Noel presses him, accusing him of wasting it on another gambling scheme. The pressure cracks Lloyd, who admits he used it to pay off his debts. Walter explodes, screaming at Lloyd for gambling away the money they had risked their lives to earn. Lloyd, cornered, flips the narrative and insists he's the real victim. He claims he never wanted to gamble the party's savings, but the thrill was irresistible, and he blames the crew for dumping leadership responsibilities on him. Noel has heard enough. He launches a brutal kick straight into Lloyd's face and stomps him into the dirt. To Noel, Lloyd's excuses are pathetic. He begged to be leader just so he could funnel resources into his addiction. Noel doesn't stop until Lloyd is bloodied and begging. Tanya steps in, pleading with Noel to spare Lloyd, but Noel twists the knife by offering her a deal. He'll let Lloyd go if she's willing to take the punishment instead. Noel then forces the truth out of her with his talker ability, which compels absolute honesty. To Walter's shock, Tanya confesses she gambled away the money alongside Lloyd and even admits she's a bigger addict than he is. When she snaps out of the ability's effect, she lashes out at Noel for using mind control, reminding him that it's illegal under Imperial law. Noel calmly responds that this wasn't personal, it was an interrogation of criminals, which makes it perfectly legal. With the truth out, Noel is ready to cut ties. The old man who partnered with him steps up, demanding his promised payment. Noel says he'll pay, but asks for patience. The old man gets pushy, grabbing Noel and accusing him of trying to scam him. Bad move. Noel instantly slams him to the ground with a precise strike to the chest, a technique his grandfather taught him that temporarily paralyzes the heart muscles. The man collapses, wheezing, as his crew drags him aside. Right then, a lavish carriage arrives, and out steps Finocchio Barzini, head of the infamous Barzini family. Finocchio is flamboyant, eccentric, and a notorious slave trader. Ha! Gay! He's also exactly who Noel had been waiting for. Noel's plan is ruthless but efficient. He'll sell Lloyd and Tanya into slavery to recoup the stolen money. Tanya panics, but Noel reminds her there are worse fates. If he handed them over to the authorities, they'd be shipped off to the mines where survival is basically zero. At least as slaves, there's a slim chance at life. Pinocchio examines the pair and offers $6 million for them. Noel scoffs, saying it's far too low. Pinocchio explains that the Holy Cross Church is preparing a decree of poverty and paying too much would draw attention. Noel doesn't care. He pushes the price higher, forcing Pinocchio to either meet his demand or risk missing out. The haggling escalates until Noel demands $15 million. Finally, Noel offers a clever spin. If Pinocchio pays 15 but tells people he only paid 13, buyers will believe Lloyd and Tanya are worth more than gold. Their perceived value will skyrocket, and Pinocchio could easily flip them for 90 million. Impressed, Pinocchio agrees and even offers Noel a place in his family. Noel declines without hesitation. He has bigger goals. The deal is struck, and Lloyd and Tanya are dragged away. Tanya turns to Walter as her last hope, pleading with him to intervene. She reminds him of his feelings for her, expecting him to save her, but Walter doesn't move. When insults and venom replace her pleas, Walter realizes how little she ever cared about him. Once the sale is done, Noel hands the old man's crew their million and prepares to leave. Walter, however, is broken. Everything he thought he knew about loyalty, love, and comradeship has been shattered. He tells Noel he can't continue as a seeker after this. Noel doesn't argue. He simply respects Walter's choice and wishes him well. Walter walks out of the city, leaving the seeker life behind. For him, it's over. But for Noel, this is only the beginning. His dream of becoming the world's strongest seeker and leading the greatest clan remains unshaken. The Blue Beyond may have collapsed, but Noel is already determined to rebuild it, stronger than ever. So the curtain opens with Noel trying to build his squad from scratch, but reality hits fast. Wolf, the loudmouth leader of the Lightning Bike crew, rolls up to remind him nobody's dumb enough to join a rookie outfit. According to Wolf, all the real talent is already locked up in established teams. Basically, Noel is like the kids sitting alone in the cafeteria, and everyone else already has their cliques. Wolf even throws Noel a bone by offering him a spot in Lightning Bite, but Noel isn't about to play sidekick. He tells Wolf straight up he'll only join if he's the one calling the shots. The audacity almost knocks Wolf flat, but the rest of Lightning Bite, they don't care one bit. They've seen how sharp Noel is, and honestly, they'd rather have his brain doing the steering instead of Wolf's ego. Wolf tries to remind everyone he founded the crew, but it's clear his stock value just dropped by half in that one conversation. And then, out of nowhere, a mysterious girl strolls in like she's been waiting for her cue. She introduces herself as Alma, says she wants in with Noel's squad, and Noel can't help but think she's a little kid playing adventurer. That bubble bursts quick when she casually drops the fact that she's 21. Lisha, the archer, crunches the numbers and realizes Alma's actually 5 years older than Noel. Talk about awkward. Noel presses for her credentials, and she reveals she's a C-rank scout, and that immediately piques his interest because scouts are basically Google Maps with legs. Bruh. Essential for navigating abysses and dodging ambushes. Then Alma casually flexes her knowledge bomb. She knows Noel's the grandson of the legendary Overdeath, and her grandfather fought him back in the day. Her granddad even lost an arm in the process. Noel freezes, wondering if she's here for revenge. But Alma shuts that down. She's not hunting blood, she's hunting curiosity. Turns out her grandfather recently passed away, and when she reveals his name, Alcor Judicali, the whole crew goes silent. That name carries weight. Alcor was the kind of assassin you only whisper about, the founder of a secret society that had the whole underworld shaking. But not everyone buys her story. Logan, one of the other Seekers hanging around, throws shade. He reminds her about Seeker etiquette. If you're low rank, you don't bar hop in the higher level joints. He's convinced she's just a rookie with a big mouth. Alma flips the situation, asks Noel to explain how Seeker ranks really work, and once she hears it, she mocks Logan right to his face, calling him a monkey. Logan, naturally, sees red and charges. That's the last mistake he makes for the day, because Alma floors him with a single strike like she's swatting a fly. Logan's out cold before he can even spell assassin. Barry-one is shocked, but Noel is beyond impressed. He decides to sign her up immediately, and Alma doesn't even bask in the victory. Instead, she starts complaining about being hungry, talk about priorities. Moments later, she's stuffing her face with fried buns, marveling about how amazing food tastes outside the mountains. Noel finally admits he didn't fully believe her earlier, but now, watching her fight, eat, and drop family lore, he knows she's legit. Alma confirms it herself, saying Noel's eyes remind her of what her grandfather always warned: never mess with Overdeath, because you won't win in a fair fight. She reveals she was trained as an assassin and already qualified to join the Society of Assassins, but there's a catch. In a flashback, we see her evaluation go off the rails. She thought her examiner was weak, and when he begged for his life, she almost killed him on the spot, following Alcor's old-school doctrine that only the strong deserve to survive. That's when Simon, the new head of the society, stepped in and told her things had changed. They don't do edgy old-school assassinations anymore. They're pivoting to espionage and serving the crown. Basically, the Society of Assassins rebranded into the Society of Spies, and Alma didn't fit the vibe. She was too hardcore, so they turned her away despite her skills. Back in the present, she shrubs it off and lets Noel know she'll stick with him instead. Noel realizes she just leaked classified intel about the assassins and panics for a second, thinking he's now on their hit hit list. But Alma reassures him in her own weird way. If the society comes for him, she'll cover his back. Comforting? Kind of? Terrifying? Absolutely. Later, while walking through the woods, Noel decides to explain his own class. Being a talker means he's all about buffing his allies and controlling the battlefield, but it's high-stakes chess. If he miscalculates, the entire party can get wiped in seconds. His skills aren't about brute strength, but precise timing. And the kicker? He can't buff himself. He's the quarterback who can't run or tackle, only direct. He wants to test Alma's adaptability, so he asks her to catch one of the local abyss mutated monsters, a killer rabbit. Don't laugh, these things are nightmare fuel with teeth. He warns her that even his last team needed weeks to adjust to his buffs, so this is gonna be a rough ride. Alma, though, just smirks with that "watch me, confidence." She senses 13 rabbits nearby, and Noel tells her the conditions: catch one in under 10 seconds while he stacks his buffs on her. With his talker skills amplifying her speed and her own excel ability multiplying it further, she goes turbo mode. In about 8 seconds, she doesn't just snag one rabbit, she brings back all 13 unconscious. Noel's jaw practically hits the dirt. His whole worldview shifts. This girl doesn't need training. She's already a one-woman army. Still reeling, Noel announces their first official gig. Alma expects some dramatic abyss dive, but instead, it's a simple thief hunting contract in a nearby village. She's hyped just to be working, but Noel knows the job's less about thieves and more about testing her in the field. They set off by carriage, and Alma is acting like she's on vacation, thrilled about her first carriage ride. Noel, being Noel, deflates the mood by reminding her it's hours of butt-numbing boredom. On the way, Noel explains Seekers are basically freelancers. In Zyres and our Risk, sure, they fight monsters, but they also handle everything from guard duty to pest control. Lords are supposed to handle crime, but when they drag their feet, villagers call Seekers for help. This job won't pay much, but Noel accepted it to see Alma's real potential. When they arrive in Eudora, Alma immediately complains about being sore, and so they need an inn. Problem is, the town's packed and they're forced to share a tiny room. Noel insists on sleeping on the floor, but Alma calls him out on being awkward and tells him to stop overthinking it. He escapes to take a bath, but when he comes out, Alma notices his surprisingly fit body. For someone who can't fight on the front lines, Noel clearly trains hard. She thinks it's kind of sad though, because raw talent will always outpace sheer effort. She even tells him outright that if he'd been born a warrior, he could have been the ultimate seeker. Noel doesn't take it well. He flicks her forehead like she's a child and tells her that kind of talk is unnecessary. But when he lies down to rest, her words stick. Deep down, he knows she's right. Still, he remembers his grandfather Overdeath's words, reminding him that even a talker can become the strongest if they never give up. Noel isn't about to abandon that legacy. No matter how much the world underestimates him, he's determined to prove them all wrong. And with Alma now officially part of his team, the Blue Beyond just got a little more dangerous and a lot more unpredictable. Noel and Alma stroll into the village chief's home, only to be greeted by a man who clearly expected reinforcements. The chief takes one look at the two of them and looks like someone just told him the cavalry canceled. Noel has to break the bad news. The rest of Blue Beyond bailed, leaving only him and Alma. The chief smiles nervously, trying to hide the fact that he's already regretting hiring them, but Noel reassures him. 2 is enough, and they'll get the job done. That's Noel in a nutshell. Supreme confidence, even when he's bluffing harder than a poker player down to his last chip. Inside, the chief's wife offers them tea, and Noel notices the chief's daughter sneaking peeks from the next room. The moment he catches her staring, she ducks back with the awkward energy of someone who just got caught stalking her crush. The chief chuckles, explaining that she's been excited to meet the Seekers. Noel assumes she was waiting to meet Lloyd, Blue Beyond's former handsome leader, but no, turns out she's eyeing Noel himself. Life really is strange sometimes. Getting down to business, Noel asks about the bandit gang, estimating there are around 20 of them. The chief confirms, then adds some horror: the thieves hit another village recently, leaving bodies in their wake and kidnapping women. It's clear these aren't your run-of-the-mill crooks. Noel presses for details, and the chief points east to a rocky clearing in the forest. That's all Noel needs before sliding into his favorite part of any job, the money talk. He demands 200,000 fill up front and another 300,000 on completion. The chief doesn't even haggle, coughing up the advance instantly. Noel finds it odd normally people bargain like it's a fish market, but then realizes this village probably scraped together everything they had. They're desperate, and desperation doesn't argue about price tags. As Noel and Alma head out, the daughter runs up, nervously asking if they'll really defeat the thieves. Noel gives her his usual calm assurance, telling her it'll be quick work. She then pulls out a bamboo dragonfly, reminding him that he was the one who taught her how to make it. This little girl has been holding on to it for years like it's the crown jewels, and Noel can't help but soften at that. She beams, saying she and her mom will make him something tasty once he's back. Alma teases him, pointing out how the girl is basically wrapped around his finger, but Noel fires back by calling her a big nuisance. Alma, unsurprisingly, doesn't appreciate being reduced to walking chest armor. Night falls, and Noel and Alma creep up on the bandits' hideout. Right away, Noel notices something's off. There are way more than 20 thieves. He zeroes in on the leader and recognizes him instantly. Gordo the Razorblade. That's not just a random thug. Gordo is a B-rank bandit, with a 2 million bounty, the kind of name that makes lesser seekers consider switching careers to sheep farming. Alma, clueless, asks who he is, so Noel fills her in and immediately calculates the risk. Gordo is a scout-class combatant dangerous enough to end most seekers in seconds. Noel asks if Alma can handle him, and she says yes, but only if it's one-on-one. Noel gets it and promises to handle the rest. Alma worries that Noel can't stay hidden like she can, but he waves it off with that schemer confidence and explains the plan. Once Alma is in position, Noel lets out a howl using his talker skills, stunning every bandit except Gordo. The man is too strong to be locked down by crowd control. Noel orders Alma to finish the job, and she rockets forward with her quintuple XL, cutting down Gordo in one lightning strike. Boss deleted. The other bandits recover from the howl, but by then Alma is already carving through them like a blender set to max speed. Noel notices something concerning. She's enjoying herself a little too much. This is not someone reluctantly killing. alma is slicing with the joy of a gamer farming low-level mobs. He already knows she'll be trouble down the line. He joins the fray, lobbing a flash grenade to disorient the bandits before unleashing flame bullets, burning them down while Alma keeps them pinned. Together, they wipe out the entire camp with surgical brutality. When it's over, Noel casually bags Gordo's head as proof. Back in the village, the chief asks if the deed is done, and Noel plops the severed head in his face like he's returning a library book. "Payment, please."
Bruh.
The chief tries to lighten the mood, inviting them to dinner. During the meal, his daughter shyly talks about wanting to be a seeker, wondering if she has what it takes. Noel gives her the rundown. She'll need to register with the government, attend seeker training school in Etrai, and cover her own living costs. It's doable, but far from easy. He even suggests working as a supporter to get real-world exposure. The girl's eyes light up, and she boldly asks if she can join Blue Beyond once she's strong. Noel promises that if she grows into a real seeker and still looks up to him by then, she has a spot. The hope in her face nearly lights the room brighter. The chief, trying to play good host, brings out a bottle of wine, claiming it cost him 100,000 fil. He insists they drink it in celebration. Noel sniffs the bottle and instantly knows something's off. The quality doesn't match the story. More than that, Noel senses the chief's bloodlust the moment the cork popped. This man is not trying to celebrate, he's trying to poison them. Noel lays it out coldly, explaining all the signs. Alma backs him, adding that poison wouldn't have worked anyway. Scouts like her build immunity. The chief tries to deny it, but Noel presses, demanding he drink the wine himself if he's so sure it's safe. The mask slips. The chief snaps and spills the wine in the glass, screaming that he doesn't have to prove anything. Noel doesn't let him wriggle out. He activates his confess skill, forcing the truth out of him. The chief admits the wine was poisoned, and his daughter's heart shatters on the spot. Noel doesn't hesitate. He gouges out one of the chief's eyes right in front of her, warning he'll take the others soon. It's brutal, cold, and utterly merciless. The chief, panicking, begs forgiveness and promises the 300,000 remaining, but Noel isn't interested in promises. He demands every coin in the house. The chief tries to explain he's drowning in debt, but Noel moves in to finish him off. The daughter rushes back, handing all the money they have, 820,000 fil to Noel, begging him to stop. The chief yells at her not to, warning the Gambino family will kill them if he can't repay his debt, but she ignores him, choosing to save his life over their future. Noel takes the money and leaves without another word, but the girl screams after him, saying she hates seekers. That one hits harder than a blade. Out in the forest, Alma checks in, wondering if Noel's shaken after crushing the hopes of a girl who looked up to him. He brushes it off with icy calm, saying disappointment is not his problem. Alma teases again, offering to be his big sister to lean on, which he rejects immediately. But before they can banter further, they spot an airship cutting across the sky. Noel recognizes it instantly. It belongs to the Goat Dinner clan, one of the 3-star regalia. Alma, confused, asks what regalia means. Noel explains the Empire recognizes 7 elite clans, each with regalia titles ranked like stars. 3 stars at the bottom, then 2 stars, and finally the 1-star clan at the top of the food chain. Regalia clans are more than strong. They're rich, skilled, and battle-hardened, with perks like legal ownership of airships. Basically, they're the aristocracy of seekers. Noel admits he wants Blue Beyond to rise to regalia status within a year. Alma is floored. This isn't ambition, it's borderline insanity. The thought drags her back to her past, to the day she finished the assassin exam. After she passed in combat, the leader, Simon, asked if she was the one who killed Alcor, her grandfather. Alma confirmed without hesitation. She explained that even the so-called god of assassins was nothing but a frail old man when age caught up. Simon pressed her for her reasoning, but she didn't see the point. To her, survival of the strongest was reason enough. Then Simon dropped another revelation. He knew she wasn't Alcor's granddaughter. She was his daughter, born from one of the women Alcor kidnapped to fuel his twisted family experiment. Alma grew up in a nightmare, forced to fight her siblings until only she remained, molded into what Alcor considered his masterpiece. But Simon told her she wasn't what the society needed anymore. They were pivoting to espionage and working with the government, not glorifying murder. For Alma, that was betrayal on top of betrayal. 21 years of training, sacrifice, and killing all rendered meaningless. She raged, demanding to know what her life even amounted to if the society discarded her. Simon told her bluntly, "Figure it out yourself." But before she left, he dangled one thread of hope. Overdeath's grandson was alive, a talker of all things, and maybe worth checking out. Back in the present, Alma embraces Noel tightly, telling him she'll fight by his side no matter what. For the first time in her fractured, bloody life, she has someone worth following, and Noel, whether he likes it or not, is at the center of it all. Somewhere, in the kind of shady setting where even cockroaches think twice about hanging around, a prison. A guard suddenly keels over after being clocked in the head, and just like that, we're introduced to a sneaky infiltrator who casually shapeshifts into the guy he just knocked out. Smooth criminal energy.
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
He walks up to the other guard on shift like it's just another Tuesday and asks about the death row inmate in the cell. The other guard, none the wiser, casually explains that the guy's in there, super quiet, barely makes a sound, almost like he doesn't exist, which is hilarious considering that the dude inside is none other than Hugo Capella, the infamous puppeteer, a killer with a rep so scary it could make horror movie villains say, "Nah, I'm good." Meanwhile, life outside the prison is way less grim and a lot sweatier. We cut to Noel, who's out doing his morning training routine, and this is no light jog. He's running with weights strapped on, pounding the ground like he's got beef with the castle walls he's circling. He calls it his daily drill, and apparently, it's non-negotiable. No matter how much he hurts, no matter how tired, he's got to do 2 laps. It's the kind of grind set routine that would make gym influencers jealous.
Push it out. Everything you got. Everything you got.
As he runs, he flashes back to his grandfather's brutal training methods. Once upon a time, Gramps was the soft-spoken, nice guy. But the moment Noel said he wanted to be a seeker, Grandpa switched personalities like someone flipped a switch. Boom! From cuddly grandpa to Spartan drill sergeant overnight. The lesson was simple. Talkers can't buff themselves, so the body itself is the only weapon. Translation: suffer now, flex later. Training over, Noel takes a shower and remembers Alma once mocking him about keeping his body in tip-top shape despite being a talker. A backline guy who technically shouldn't even be on the front lines. Alma roasting him has basically become her love language at this point. Speaking of Alma, she barges into his room right after his shower. He points out that she's early, not on schedule, but Alma doesn't care. She flirts in the way only Alma knows how, by climbing on top of him, touching him everywhere, and teasing that she wants to play with her little brother figure. Noel, horrified, headbutts her before things escalate into something questionable. Later, the two are walking through town, Alma asking why Noel headbutted her like she was some drunk creep at a bar. Noel retorts that she deserved it. After all, she did pounce on him like a cougar in heat. She jokes it's his fault for being too cute. Noel is not winning this argument. He never wins these arguments. Their little date continues with Alma insisting on holding his hand in public, pretending they're a couple. Their first stop? The Appraisers Guild. Noel explains how this place is where seekers can get evaluated, check their rank, or even level up. Appraisers, who are always gnomes, are obsessed with classes like tech nerds are obsessed with new gadgets. He points out a seeker ranking up with a gnome's help, then asks Alma about her own rank up since she's marked for it. Alma, ever the teaser, jokes that Noel's mark would look perfect on his butt. Noel is not amused. Noel asks what class she should advance to. Assassin? Something else? Noel doesn't have a clear answer but leans toward Assassin being handy. He also casually mentions he plans to recruit more members for their crew, which surprises Alma. She was probably hoping this would stay a duo Noel x Alma forever arrangement. But Noel's got bigger plans. After that, they wander into a smithy to check their weapons. The dwarf smith can't take his eyes off Alma's equipment, and no, not the weapons, confirming the running gag that men in this world are weak against her oversized stats. The final stop is a skill bookstore. Noel explains that these shops sell skill manuals for different classes. He asks for something useful for a C-rank scout, and the owner fetches him what he needs. Before leaving, he tells Alma her budget is $1 million, advising her not to blow it all at once. Spoiler alert, she immediately blows it all at once. When they meet up later, Noel finds her lugging around a giant teddy bear like a child fresh from a carnival. She cheerfully tells him she dropped $800K on a combat skill and the other $200K on this cuddly stand-in body pillow, which she plans to treat as a Noel substitute. Noel, predictably, short-circuits from disbelief. Noel admits the skill he wanted was way out of his price range, some flashy exorcism technique costing $30 million. And then, like the responsible leader he is, he excuses himself to go handle some business, leaving Alma sulking that he ditched her mid-date. That business takes him straight to the slums where he meets Loki, or rather, Faceless. The capital's best informant, Loki, with his shape-shifting imitator class, is basically the walking embodiment of catfishing. Noel is there to get dirt on Hugo Capella, the puppeteer, because he believes the infamous killer might have been framed. Loki thinks Noel's gone off the rails. First he sold off his old crew into slavery, now he wants to recruit a death row inmate. He jokes Noel's missing screws, but Noel proudly accepts the insult like it's a medal. Honestly, he is missing screws, but that's exactly why people follow him. Loki gives Noel the info, and even throws in a bonus tidbit about a dangerous drug spreading in the capital with an untouchable high, but the side effects are an uncontrollable rage. It's being pushed by a Luciano subfamily. And since this turf belongs to the Gambinos, led by Albert Gambino, a notorious psycho, this drug war is a ticking bomb. Meanwhile, Alma Alma is stress eating somewhere else, annoyed Noel ditched her. Lycia finds her and points out that maybe Noel really is out recruiting instead of goofing off. Alma puffs her cheeks, convinced Noel doesn't get women at all. Back in the slums, Noel runs into a beggar who mistakes him for a girl. Noel is not amused. After a bit of insult tennis, the beggar suddenly takes a martial arts stance. Noel instantly realizes this man, Koga, isn't just some ragged street rat. The two exchange blows, Noel easily overpowering him but noticing serious technique. Just as Koga starts to unleash his aura, a short, creepy little guy shows up and scolds Koga like an angry Pokemon trainer yelling at his pet. This pint-sized creep has Koga bound by an oath of submission, basically subordination magic. Noel recognizes it as illegal. But in here, it's legal when it's between a master and a slave. The short guy starts creeping on Noel, mistakenly thinking he's a girl. Noel responds by punting him like a football. Deserved. When interrogated, the guy admits he ran away from the Dallenberg family after stealing from the prophet and now wants to use Koga as a gladiator in underground fights. Noel immediately decides he's trash and not worth keeping alive. The screen fades as Noel fires his gun. Meanwhile, Alma is still ranting about Noel when Lycia jokes he's probably out sweet-talking a new recruit. Alma smirks and says she doesn't care. She'll just kill anyone else. Noel tries to add, classic Alma. Loyal, scary, and maybe just a bit unhinged. Noel lets his pistol bark once, the bullet tearing the air past Miguel's skull. A little reminder shot. The warning couldn't be clearer, 10 seconds to vanish or the next one won't miss. Miguel, who up to now has been swaggering like he runs the world, suddenly finds out what true cardio looks like. He scrambles up, kicks poor Koga to make a move too, and bolts like his life depends on it, because, well, it does. Noel watches them go, sizing Koga up one last time. He admits the guy's strong, clearly trained, but strength without guts? That's a deal breaker. If Koga had even half the courage Noel demands in a teammate, he would have already snapped Miguel in two like a breadstick and freed himself. Instead, he just takes the abuse and plods along behind. Disappointing. Later, Noel heads back to his usual spot at the cafe, where Lycia is lounging like she owns the place. He looks at her, not even hiding the annoyance. He didn't invite her, so why should he be on the hook for her coffee bill? He says as much. Dry as ever, Alma, clearly still salty about being ditched earlier, snaps back that Lycia's just keeping her company since Noel decided to leave her hanging. So yes, Mr. Cheapskate, the bill's on him. Noel sighs, gives in, and agrees to cover both. He really is outnumbered here. Once he sits down, Lycia immediately preys into his business. She figures he's been gone so long because he's out there recruiting new teammates. Noel doesn't even sugarcoat it. He was hoping to, but no one so far has met his standards. And knowing Noel, those standards are higher than an MMO guild leader during raid season. Instead, he tells her he's got something else pressing. The nasty little drug that's been spreading like wildfire. He lays it out. Sure, it gives a euphoric high, but the side effect? Rage level so bad people are stabbing each other in the streets for looking at them wrong. Lycia listens, a little surprised that Noel is even telling her this. He's not exactly community outreach material. She thanks him, teasing that she didn't think he'd be the type to worry about her. Noel waves it off like it's nothing. He's just passing along info because he gets along with her party. That's all. He's not about to admit he actually cares in any way. Lycia smiles anyway, thanks him again, and gets up to leave. Before going, she asks Alma to tag along with her to a sweet shop, not as comrades, but just as friends. Alma's delighted because if there's one thing she'll never turn down, it's dessert. Noel, on the other hand, is having none of it. He tells Lycia not to drag Alma into some friendship bonding thing. He's allergic to bestie energy. Lycia just laughs it off and leaves. Now alone, Noel mulls over the situation. If even Lycia's hearing rumors about this drug, it's already bigger than just the capital. It's spreading, and fast. He's certain this isn't just some side quest problem. It's going to blow up into something massive, and right now, it's putting him in the crosshairs of something bigger. Speaking of which, remember Miguel, the rat who bolted earlier? He doesn't get very far. Turns out he gets scooped up by none other than Albert Gambino. And let's be clear, if this were a video game, Albert would be that optional boss you only fight if you hate yourself. The man is a certified psychopath with a glass case full of human skulls, like a goth IKEA catalog gone wrong. Normally, Albert wouldn't even waste his time on trash like Miguel, but the Dallenberg's family wants payback for Miguel's antics, and since they called in Gambino support, Albert figures he'll make an example of him. Miguel immediately goes into full desperation mode. He tries flattery, calling Albert a living legend who shouldn't dirty his hands with something as boring as bounty collection, but Albert, with that cold shark smile, says he's got a better idea of fun. And by fun, he means skinning Miguel alive and turning him into a doll. Miguel panics, hoping this is some sick joke. Albert even adds that he plans to do the same to Miguel's slave, Koga. But here's the kicker. Koga doesn't even flinch. This is a man who's already checked out of life. You threaten to skin him alive and he basically shrugs. Death, misery, whatever, he's already been there. Albert is just about to grab his skinning kit when one of his debt collectors barges in with a new guest, the chief of a men's village who hasn't paid back his debt. The chief starts ranting about how he scraped together the money, only for a seeker named Noel to rob him blind and even mock the Gambino family. Albert is furious at the disrespect. He vows to make Noel pay dearly. Still, he admits the chief will be given time to get the money, but he still has to be punished for not paying when he said he would, whatever the reasons may be. So Albert says he'll be punished by chopping off the chief's arm. The room goes cold. He orders Koga to do it, tossing him nothing but the chief's wooden stick and saying, "Make it work." Miguel screams at Koga to obey, and obey he does. With terrifying speed, Koga brings the stick down and the chief's hand drops to the floor like a chopped carrot. The screams echo, and Albert looks positively thrilled. Impressed, Albert claims Koga for himself. Koga is taken to be fitted for proper gear, and this is where we see his backstory unfold. And wow, is it tragic? Born to a wealthy businessman father and a famously beautiful mother, Koga should have had a charmed life. Instead, his father is attacked, his mother assaulted, and 9 months later Koga is born, a living reminder of that trauma. His mother tries to raise him, but his father can't even look at him without hatred. Eventually, she breaks under the weight of it all and takes her own life. Koga grows up reviled, mocked, and hated even within his own home. His father drinks himself into oblivion, and the household staff treat Koga like a curse that should have died at birth. Eventually, his family sells him off as a slave, and Miguel throws him into an underground fighting ring. Koga discovers he's skilled, winning fight after fight, and Miguel showers him with praise. The first positive words Koga's ever received. It breaks him down in tears, but later he realizes Miguel's praise was never about him, only the money he brought in. Back to the present, Koga is now Albert's new toy, suited up and ready for his first mission. And that mission? Kill Noel. Meanwhile, Noel sneaks into an abandoned church at night to meet with Loki, the ever-resourceful informant. Loki admits he's got bad news. Albert Gambino has put a hit out on Noel. The whole thing started because the men's village chief ratted him out, claiming Noel robbed him and mocked Albert. Albert, being the completely rational human being he is, didn't need proof. He just decided Noel stole and needed to go. Noel thinks it's insane, but that's Albert in a nutshell. Still, he's more shocked when he realizes Loki's betrayal. The clanking of armor in the church announces the arrival of an assassin. Loki apologizes, saying he had no choice. The Gambino family threatened him, and he figured he could always skip town after. Noel considers shooting him on the spot, but decides against it. Loki admits he's lost his pride as an informant, and Noel respects that weird sense of honor. Instead of killing him, Noel forgives him, which stuns Loki so much he laughs. Loki promises to repay that mercy someday, then bolts. And then, out of the shadows, Noel's attacker steps forward. It's Koga. Both men freeze in shock. Noel can't believe Koga's already risen to assassin status, and Koga is equally stunned to see Noel as his target. But orders are orders, and Koga knows he has to fight. With warrior pride, he declares himself Koga of the Wong clan. Noel, smirking, introduces himself back, then aims his pistol. The battle erupts. Noel fires, but Koga dodges with blinding speed, closing the gap instantly. Noel barely slips away using wires, realizing Koga's improved tenfold since their first encounter. Noel tries to even the odds by firing off a fire bullet, engulfing Koga in flames, but Koga slices the very air itself to create a vacuum where fire cannot burn. Forced into close combat, Noel goes dirty, aiming for a nut shot. Koga leaps back, offended that Noel would fight so low, but Noel just shrugs. Survival trumps honor. Then Noel tosses a flashbang, blinding Koga, and moves in for the kill. But Koga rallies, unleashing his signature flurry of slashes. The strikes rip through Noel's defenses, and in a final brutal swing, he knocks Noel off balance, sending him crashing off the ledge into open air. The clash ends with Noel plummeting toward what looks like certain doom, while Koga stands above, blade still humming with the fury of his attack. Noel smacks the ground hard, the kind of fall that rattles your bones and makes you wonder if life insurance would have been a good investment.
Listen, everybody has to pay taxes.
He blacks out for a moment, and when he finally comes to, the first thing he sees is Koga standing over him, sword angled right at his skull. Koga's got this smug little grin, the kind that says, "You fought well, but now you're toast." He actually admits he's impressed. Says Noel's one of the toughest guys he's gone toe-to-toe with, but Noel isn't interested in compliments. He stares up at him and asks the question point blank. If Koga's really here to kill him, why hasn't he done it yet? The question cuts deeper than Noel's wounds. Koga falters. His grip on the blade wavers. For all his discipline, he can't bring himself to strike Noel down after clashing with him like that. Something about the way Noel fights, unyielding, reckless, determined, makes him hesitate. But Noel has no patience for mercy. He grabs the edge of the blade with his bare hand, the steel biting into his skin, and roars at Koga. Mercy isn't a luxury. If Koga doesn't kill him now, Albert will kill Koga for failing. That's how this world works. Noel even dares him, practically demanding his own execution. But the more Noel pushes, the more conflicted Koga becomes. For a moment, Koga wonders if Noel's defiance is really about him, or if Noel's protecting someone else. Maybe he's stalling, maybe he's sacrificing himself for his allies. But Noel throws him completely off guard when he smirks through the blood and declares Koga's chance has already passed, because Alma has just arrived and she's not about to let anyone mess with Noel. It turns out, before the fight began, Noel used his link skill to secretly send Alma a message. Now, with his potion boost worn off and his body utterly drained, he's grateful she showed up when she did. Alma doesn't even need the details. Koga attacked Noel, and that's all she needs to know. She asks if she can finish him off, and Noel gives her the go-ahead. In an instant, Alma lunges at Koga. Her strike so fast it forces him onto the defensive. He blocks with his blades and, in the middle of the clash, tries reasoning with her. He doesn't want to hurt a woman. Alma laughs in his face. The way she sees it, he's the one barely holding on, not her. But Koga pushes back, pointing out she caught him off guard and still couldn't land a finishing blow. That gets under her skin. Taking it as a challenge, she activates her acceleration skill and her speed spikes. She becomes a blur, darting at Koga with deadly precision. Koga doesn't panic. He responds by closing his eyes, focusing inward, and unlocking his sense enhancement skill. His body reacts with pinpoint accuracy, his blades catching Alma's furious strikes. The two of them clash at a pace even Noel struggles to follow. Watching from the ground, he's struck by a bitter truth. He'll never fight like that. A talker doesn't have the power or the skill to go toe-to-toe like Alma or Koga, but instead of despair, it stirs something fiercer in him. That fire in his chest burns hotter. He doesn't just want to catch up to them, he wants to surpass them. Alma admits through clenched teeth that Koga's stronger than she expected, but she's not out of tricks yet. She's got one final move, something devastating lined up to finish him. Koga, no longer playing around, prepares his own ultimate slash. He wants it clean, fair, decisive. Both are seconds away from unleashing killing blows until Noel suddenly fires a flare into the sky. The bright light explodes above them, cutting through their focus. He orders Alma to stand down. She bristles, furious. He's stopping her mid-fight, but his tone leaves no room for argument. Growling, she obeys. Noel then tells Koga to leave too. The flare is a signal. Soon the military police will swarm the area, and if they sniff out Albert's schemes, everything crumbles. Koga grits his teeth. He doesn't want to walk away empty-handed, but Noel's logic is undeniable. Just before he leaves, Noel stops him and delivers a message. Tell Albert Gambino I'm going to wreck his entire crew. Koga studies him for a moment, sees no hint of bluff in Noel's eyes, then nods and disappears into the night. The next day, Koga reports back to Albert. The mission failed. Noel's still breathing. Most men would panic at the thought of giving Albert bad news, but Koga delivers it straight. Albert, disturbingly calm, slides a box across the table. Inside is Miguel's severed head. Albert says he'll forgive Koga this time since he's in a good mood, but he warns him, fail again, and he'll join Miguel. Koga nods, promising not to slip next time. Before he leaves, he relays Noel's message word for word. Albert asks if he's sure Noel really said that. Koga doesn't flinch. It was the truth. That's all Albert needs to hear. He laughs, but his eyes burn. From now on, Noel isn't just an annoyance, he's a target that must be erased. As Koga exits, Laios joins him. The older man teases that Koga might have gone too far passing along Noel's words, but Koga admits he couldn't help it. It wasn't about Miguel. He never cared for that coward. It's about Noel. Even as a talker, Noel fought him with a ferocity few warriors could muster. Koga respects that. Deep down, he even envies it. Laios smirks, pointing out the obvious. Koga sees Noel as a rival, someone who lights a fire under him, no shame in it. Everyone needs someone who pushes them to greater heights. Koga processes it quietly, realizing Laios is right. Later, Albert struts into the secret tavern with Laios and his men in tow. Confident, smug, he drops into Noel's booth and grabs his bottle of wine, downing it like a challenge. Unfortunately, Albert's taste buds revolt. The wine is foul. Noel mocks him, telling him it's rude to drink another man's wine without asking. Albert, ego bruised, leans in close, threatening to cut Noel's tongue out. But Noel, cool as ice, smirks, and says Albert only talks big when he's with his men. The insult lands harder than a punch. Just as Albert reaches boiling point, another seeker steps forward, reminding him of the tavern's unspoken law: no fights inside, no matter the reason. Albert bristles, ready to order a massacre, but Laios calmly points out the cost. Sure, they could cut down these C-rank nobodies, but that would drag the Gambino family into a full-on war with Don Luciano's people. With the Drodhi already looming, that'd be suicide. Noel seizes the moment. He leans in and tells Albert to calm down before his rage speeds up the poison coursing through his veins. Albert freezes, eyes wide. Poison? Noel grins. He laced the wine as soon as Albert stepped in. Panic sets in. Albert staggers to his feet, gagging, trying to vomit it out. Noel shakes his head too late. The poison's already in his bloodstream. Screaming, Albert bolts from the tavern in search of a doctor, humiliated and terrified. As soon as he's gone, Laios eyes Noel knowingly. There was never any poison, just a bluff, brilliantly played. He admits Koga was right. There's something dangerous about Noel's fire. Still, Laios offers him two options: take some cash and disappear, or stay and face certain death. Noel accepts the money, slipping out with Alma at his side. Alma heads off to train in the woods, swearing next time she meets Koga, she'll crush him. Noel and Alma part ways for a week, sealing it with a fist bump like two warriors promising to meet again stronger. Alma vanishes into the woods with fire in her eyes, determined to train until Koga's speed looks like he's running on dial-up internet. Noel, meanwhile, goes digging, not for relics or treasure, but for dirt. Real, devastating dirt. When he finally returns to town, Albert shows up too, dragging an entire entourage of bodyguards and his usual overconfidence. Grinning like a man who thinks he's already won, Albert orders them to snap every bone in Noel's body just to watch him squirm. But here's the plot twist: nobody moves. Not a single hand twitches. The silence is deafening, and Albert, dumb as ever, can't even compute what just happened. Noel, never one to miss a chance to rub salt in wounds, calmly explains that the clown in front of him no longer has control over his own crew. The real story unfolds in flashback, where Leos and the men had been drinking away their guilt earlier that day. Albert had ordered something so vile it snapped the last thread of loyalty they had left, killing a little girl who clutched a toy like it was her entire world. The image stuck in their heads, and no amount of liquor could wash it away. They hadn't signed up for this, they'd followed the old Gambino boss out of respect. Albert, he wouldn't recognize respect if it hit him over the head with a chair. That's when Noel walked into their bar, sharp eyes instantly catching the toy they'd been holding onto, the very same one he had given the girl back in the men's village. Even if her father had been a snake, Noel had cared enough to soften the girl's world with a gift, and finding out Albert had snuffed her out hit harder than any blade. But Noel wasn't there to fight. He was there to talk and to drop a bomb big enough to level Albert's reputation forever. Noel lays down the receipts. First, a birth certificate proving Albert isn't even a Gambino by blood, he was just the messy result of an affair and a misplaced favor. Second, evidence dug up by Loki showing Albert poisoned the old boss, covering it up as a sudden illness. Albert tries to bluster his way out of it, claiming no one can prove it, but Noel grins like a wolf. Proof isn't a problem when you got confess, a skill that forces the truth to spill out of even the most stubborn mouths. Albert's crimes are dragged into the open for everyone to hear, and that's all Leos needs. He declares Albert's reign over, calling him immoral, stupid, and unworthy. But because the underworld still runs on some code of honor, Leos offers him one last lifeline: win a duel and he keeps the family. Albert, predictably, shrinks back from the idea of fighting Noel himself, but Leos allows him to pick a champion. Just when Albert thinks he can weasel out of this too, the door creaks open and in walks Pinocchio, brought by Noel to make sure there are no excuses. With her watching, Albert's hands are tied. The duel is happening, and for once, the self-proclaimed kingpin has nowhere to run. Pinocchio had been waiting for the perfect moment to get Albert off his back, and Noel's scheme handed it to him on a silver platter. The guy didn't even hesitate, he was all in, and he sweetened the deal by promising Noel a fat payday of 50 million if things worked out. That's the kind of number that makes anyone sit up a little straighter. Albert, of course, wasn't about to let things slide. He started screaming at Pinocchio, claiming he was the mastermind behind everything. But Pinocchio, fed up with Albert's whining, snapped back. He told Albert to quit wasting time, pick a fighter, and settle this. If Albert dragged his feet, the fallout would come crashing down on him even harder. That shut him up real quick. Albert finally caved and agreed to choose. Pinocchio set the stakes. If Albert's fighter won, he'd be reinstated as head of the Gambino family, and on top of that, Pinocchio would look the other way about the disaster Albert caused at the secret tavern. But Albert had to move fast. It didn't take a genius to guess who Albert would pick. He scanned the room, then pointed at Koga. Noel had seen this coming from a mile away. Koga might not have been the strongest guy present, but his oath bound him to Albert. Even if deep down he didn't want to, he couldn't refuse. Meanwhile, Alma was practically bouncing in her seat, itching for a rematch. She wanted to show everyone her growth and prove she could surpass Koga this time. But Noel cut her off, striding in with his usual cocky swagger. He told her to stand down, that he had this covered. Alma shot him a look that could melt steel. She knew Koga outclassed him in a straight fight, but Noel wasn't budging. He was hyped up, already grinning like he had 3 steps of the game planned. All Alma could do was throw her hands up and watch. When Noel and Koga finally squared up, the energy in the room crackled. Koga's expression was calm but fired up. He knew there was nothing in it for him, no money, no prestige, but that didn't matter. For Koga, the fight itself was enough. Plus, he wanted to test Noel to see what kind of trick the kid had hidden up his sleeve. They launched at each other, Noel opening with a leap into the air, firing an ice bullet. Koga managed to counter, but the blast expanded into a massive ice dome, sealing them off from the world. Everyone outside was locked out of the show, leaving the two of them alone in their frozen arena. Noel started darting around, keeping out of Koga's reach, forcing him to waste energy swinging at shadows. But Koga was too seasoned to be rattled for long. He shifted his stance, signaling that he was about to unleash one of his most dangerous skills, Super Flash. This move cranked his attack power up 7-fold whenever he drew his sword. One wrong step from Noel and he'd be sliced in two. But Noel wasn't panicking. He was calm, grinning like a fox who knew the henhouse had a hole in the fence. He tossed his gun aside with a dramatic flourish, claiming he was out of ammo, and pulled out his dagger. Then, with a straight face, he hit Koga with the strangest timing for a trivia. You can use orange peels to scrub out stubborn grease stains. Koga blinked. That was not on the list of battle tactics he'd studied. The sheer absurdity of the trivia stalled him just long enough for Noel to slip his trap into place. While Koga hesitated, wondering if Noel had some bizarre hidden move tied to that nonsense, Noel baited him in. Koga finally slashed, grazing Noel's arm, but that was exactly what Noel wanted. The sword got caught for a split second, just enough for Noel to wrench it free from his grip. Koga stumbled, stunned, realizing Noel would go so far as to risk his own body just to win. But Koga wasn't out yet. Even without a blade in his hand, he wasn't the type to crumble. He shoved Noel away and made a desperate dive, catching the sword before it clattered to the ground. With a roar, he unleashed a devastating slash so powerful it shattered the ice dome around them. The force hurled Noel across the battlefield like a rag doll. Koga thought it was finished. He dove in, blade ready for the killing strike. but instead of flesh, his blade pierced an ice bullet hidden in Noel's pocket. The explosion froze him instantly, locking him solid like a human popsicle. Noel had been baiting him all along, setting him up for this exact trap. And while Koga stood there, ice spreading across his body, Noel leapt up and drove a brutal kick straight into his chest, knocking him out cold. As Koga fell, his memories surged. A lonely child with no one to protect him. A gladiator forced into blood-soaked arenas, fighting for survival while hating every second of it. Those scars never healed. No matter how strong he grew, deep inside he was still that scared boy who only knew how to follow orders. And as his body hit the ground, he realized the difference between him and Noel. Noel, despite being a talker, the weakest class on paper, never let anyone chain down his ideals or freedom. That kind of strength was something Koga respected, maybe even envied. With Koga down, Noel was declared the winner. Albert's claim to leadership crumbled right there. Noel didn't even bask in the victory. He turned to Finocchio and told him his part was done. Albert was their mess now, and they could clean it up however they liked. Lio stepped forward, tipping his hat to Noel's guts and skill. He even offered him a favor, should he ever need it, but Noel brushed it off coldly. He was done with the Gambino family. Later, Alma patched him up, her hands surprisingly gentle despite her scolding tone. She chewed him out for risking his neck like that, especially with that reckless final kick. Noel brushed it off with a smirk, but Alma wasn't letting him wiggle away. She reminded him that his role wasn't to play frontline hero, that was her job. His role was to lead. Noel apologized, promising to stop taking such reckless chances. Alma softened, but she made it clear he could rely on her to do the fighting when it counted. That's when Finocchio returned, all smiles, congratulating Noel on his win. Noel, sharp as ever, cut to the point, his payment. He wasn't letting anyone slip him out of his 50 million. Finocchio chuckled, assuring him the money was his, but then asked Alma to step outside for a private word. Once she was gone, his tone darkened. He wanted Noel to join the Luciano family, promising power, riches, even leadership of the Gambino family. Noel laughed at the absurdity. He was 16. How was he supposed to run an entire syndicate? But Finocchio didn't care about age. To him, guts and ambition were all that mattered. Noel, still laughing, turned him down flat. That's when Finocchio showed his true hand. His class wasn't just any rank, it was Punisher. He revealed his judgment skill. And before Noel could blink, Finocchio was holding his heart in his hand. Noel's chest was empty, no heartbeat, but he was still alive thanks to the skill's spatial link. The rules were simple. If Finocchio walked more than 4 meters away or crushed the heart, Noel was done for. It was brutal, but effective. He told Noel straight he was too dangerous to be left unchecked. One day he'd become a problem for the Luciano family, and maybe today was the day to end him. Noel didn't flinch. Even with his heart dangling between Finocchio's fingers, he stood tall. He declared that he would become the world's greatest seeker. So strong the Luciano family wouldn't be able to touch him. If Finocchio killed him now, it would prove he was nothing but a coward, too scared to face Noel once he was strong. The words cut deeper than any blade. Finocchio chuckled, slipping Noel's heart back with a mock apology, acting like it was all a misunderstanding. But before he left, he warned Noel to back up that big talk, because the world wouldn't forgive empty words. As he left, Alma's glare nearly burned a hole through him. She wanted to strike, but held herself back. Finocchio moved on, smirking as he returned to Albert, who was groveling for his life in a puddle of tears and snot. Pathetic. Finocchio, disgusted, decided death was too merciful and made up his mind about what to do with Albert. The next day, Noel casually met with Koga and showed him the contract of subordination, essentially making Koga his slave. Koga assumed Noel would claim him, but Noel tossed the contract back, saying he had no use for a slave. Koga might be strong, but compared to the true monsters of the Seeker world, he was still small fry. Noel didn't need dead weight, he needed equals. For the first time in his life, Koga was free, and it terrified him. But one thing he knew for sure, he wanted to stand beside Noel. He asked to join Blue Beyond, not as a slave, but as a comrade. Noel accepted without hesitation. Soon after, the new trio, Noel, Alma, and Koga, took on their first mission together. Their teamwork was rough but promising. Noel issued orders with precision, Alma cleared enemies like a whirlwind, and Koga tore through whatever crossed his path. Of course, pride got in the way. Koga and Alma started bickering over who killed what, but Noel shut it down. It wasn't about kill counts, it was about winning. By the end, they pulled it off. Their synergy, while imperfect, showed flashes of greatness. Before they return, Noel plans to officially register them as a clan once they get back to Etri. Being state-recognized would open doors, giving them direct access to quests and power without middlemen. And just as he was speaking about the future, a mark shimmered on his arm. B rank. Alma teased that it should have appeared somewhere cooler, but Noel didn't care. To him, it was proof that he was climbing closer to his dream of being the strongest seeker alive. Noel's sharp mind is always running 2 steps ahead, and before the chaos of the present, a few years ago back at his estate, Noel is coolly orchestrating his family's business. He isn't barking orders like a tyrant, he's calm calmly directing his maids, polishing systems, tightening the flow so the winery hums like a well-oiled machine. That's when an old man strolls in, introducing himself as Harold Jenkins, a guild supervisor. Noel, being the charming host he can be when it suits him, pours the guest a glass of wine. Harold takes a sip, clearly impressed, and guesses Noel's business must be thriving. Noel downplays it, giving all the credit to his late grandfather's inheritance and the loyal crew left behind. Harold studies him with knowing eyes, recognizing a natural leader even in the boy's casual posture, but Noel brushes the praise off. He isn't clinging to titles or vineyards, he even admits he plans to step back eventually, letting the servants run things. But beneath the polite host act, Noel isn't one to waste time. He cuts the small talk and bluntly asks Harold what he really came for. Harold gets serious, sliding a photo across the table. The beast in the picture is the same abyssal lord that ravaged Noel's town years ago, the same one tied to Overdeath's final battle. Noel doesn't even flinch. He already suspected the beast was still lurking because both its body and his grandfather's battle axe vanished after that day. He asks if it's been handled, but Harold delivers grim news. A squad called Night Rage tried and got annihilated. Even the elite Supreme Dragon Clan arrived too late, the monster already sinking back into the void. Harold then explains the disturbing part. This lord isn't acting like a mindless beast. It's moving with purpose, which hints at something far more dangerous. Noel pieces the puzzle together quickly, realizing it might have mutated into a Valiant, the kind of nightmare only spoken of in history books. Harold confirms it, telling him the last Valiant, Cocytus the Silverfish, erased 3 nations in its rampage before Overdeath's Bloodsword Federation miraculously brought it down. The first variant kill in history. Noel listens, not with dread, but with something dangerously close to excitement. Where others see the apocalypse, he sees opportunity, his grin reminding Harold of Overdeath himself. Before leaving, Harold mentions Noel is nearly of age to become an official Seeker. Noel smirks, telling him to remember his face because he's going to be the strongest Seeker alive. Back in the present, Blue Beyond sits in nervous silence, waiting for their clan application review. Koga looks like he's about to faint, dripping sweat at the thought of answering questions wrong. Alma, of course, makes it worse, teasing him that their application would be rejected if he messes up. He should just off himself and save them the trouble. She's half joking, half dead serious, clearly hoping to thin out the competition for Noel's attention. Noel tries to cool the tension, but then the atmosphere shifts, a heavy pressure filling the room. They brace for an attack, only to see Harold walk in. He reviews their paperwork, notes the 20 million fee, and admits he's impressed they're so prepared. Noel confidently mentions plans to rank up with Alma once the clan is official, but then Harold lowers the hammer, rejected. Their dreams get stamped out in a heartbeat. Elsewhere, we glimpse Zeke Feinstein, the innocent blade of Supreme Dragon, fresh off slaying a Death 12 beast, his reputation soaring. Back with Noel, Harold explains his rejection. Right now, the guild is pouring everything into prepping for the inevitable appearance of a valiant lord, and they don't have the resources to babysit rookies. And worse, Harold admits even with their strongest, humanity's chances look shaky. He warns them to keep the news secret and rejects them again, though he can't help noticing how much Noel resembles Overdeath and Resolve as the boy simply accepts the setback and walks away. Koga naturally panics outside, asking if Noel's just gonna give up. Noel say this isn't the end, it's the perfect chance. In a quiet alley, Noel explains his vision. A valiant might mean destruction, but it also means progress. When Cocytus fell, its heart was turned into a nationwide water purifier, lifting an empire overnight. Killing abyssal lords doesn't just protect humanity, it evolves civilization. That's why Seekers are heroes. Noel declares they'll become a regalia clan in half a year instead of a year. A plan so insane Koga nearly chokes, but Noel's eyes burn with ambition. They need skills, knowledge, and a spectacle to put their names in history. As if on cue, a paperboy yells about Zeke's death, 12 killed, and Noel realizes he's right. They need a dramatic feat, something unforgettable. Later, Noel ranks up into a strategist subclass, gaining sharper analysis and predictive combat instincts, the ultimate brain buff. Soon after, he bumps into Zeke himself, who's mobbed by fangirls. Surprisingly, Zeke already knows who Noel is and even suspects him of toppling the Gambinos. Noel tries to deflect, but Zeke isn't fooled. He outright tries to recruit him. Noel turns him down immediately. Zeke, undeterred, makes it clear he'll use any means to get what he wants. Noel smirks, telling him to prove he's stronger first. He needles him by pointing out Leo Eden, another X-rank, might be stronger than him. Later, a random drunk calls Zeke the second best Seeker in town, and Zeke snaps, sending the poor guy flying. Noel, watching from the shadows, grins. He's just found Zeke's weak spot. Meanwhile, Alma is getting humbled and training with Lysha, who points out Alma is too reckless for backline work. Alma's pride stings, but Lysha reassures her that Noel knows how to use her strengths regardless. That's when an elf named Ophelia, an old friend of Lysha, arrives, introducing her winged knights party, including their leader Leon Frederick. Ophelia plays nice at first while telling Alma a few things about being a seeker, but quickly warns Alma that Noel stolen is bad news, calling him a traitor who sells allies to slavers and cuts mob deals. Alma just smirks, unbothered, even amused, while Leon shuts Ophelia down, telling her not to judge people she doesn't know. Once they leave, Alma admits most of what Ophelia said was technically true, but she doesn't care. Later, Noel talks with Loki, who brings him a list of B-rank parties. One stands out, the Winged Knights, Leon's crew. They're strong, respected, and still independent. Loki praises Leon as possibly the top B rank. Noel doesn't see a rival. He sees a stepping stone. He mutters about weak points and how once you crack them, even the strongest start to crumble. Loki notices the dark gleam in Noel's eyes, calling him out for looking downright sinister. Noel just smirks. He'll do whatever it takes to climb. Noel's eyes are already fixed on his next move, and this time he's aiming high straight for Hugo Capelia, the infamous puppeteer rotting away on death row. Dragged out of his cell to meet Noel, Hugo looks like half the man he used to be. Literally. He's thinner, paler, and clearly refusing food like he's on some twisted hunger strike. Noel clocks it immediately and doesn't like what he sees. A legend like Hugo wasting away in a cell, not on his watch. See, puppeteers aren't just your run-of-the-mill fighters, they're artists of war, crafting weapons and warriors out of puppets so versatile they can counter just about anyone. Hugo was a big deal, respected across the seeker world until life decided to slam him face first into a wall of accusations and a death sentence. He calls Noel's little visit pointless, insisting there's no way he's getting out of this. But Noel, being Noel, doesn't ask. He declares. He snaps his fingers, orders tea from a guard, and what do you know? The guard obeys without hesitation. Hugo blinks, confused. Bribery? No. Noel casually reveals he's been pulling strings with blackmail, proving he can bend the prison itself around his will. Hugo doesn't trust seekers and thinks Noel is the worst of them all, a snake who'd sell out his mother for an inch of progress. But Noel just smirks, taking the insult like a trophy. He leaves Hugo with one promise: he'll be back, and Hugo will join him whether he wants to or not. Later, Noel, Alma, and Koga roll into their new meetup spot, the Rockbird Beak Tavern. Problem is, the place is exclusive only for B-rank seekers and above. Luckily, Noel and Alma just ranked up, meaning Koga gets to ride their coattails inside. Heads turn the moment they step in. This crew screams new blood with attitude, but not everyone's clapping. Edgar, a mountain of muscle and scars, stomps up, sneering at Noel's smooth face. Pretty boy must be a coward, never been in a real fight. Noel doesn't blink. He fires back, saying Edgar's scars aren't proof of toughness, they're just proof he's terrible at fighting. That lands, and Edgar's about to swing when Noel drops the hammer. Edgar's address, his pregnant wife's name, even the unborn baby's future name. Edgar freezes. Noel didn't just pull receipts, he printed the whole CBS-length receipt. Too scared to risk it, Edgar backs down, and the whole tavern learns the hard way. Don't test the talker. Noel uses the spotlight to introduce himself, branding his name into the room before settling in at the bar. But playtime's short-lived. His real targets have arrived. The Winged Knights step in, led by Leon Frederick, but it's Ophelia who spots Alma first. She's shocked to see her here, and Noel, sensing opportunity, pushes Alma with his talker skill. Turns out Alma and Ophelia cross paths once during training, but they're not exactly besties. Even better, Ophelia hates Noel with a burning passion. Perfect. Noel makes his introduction, and the second Ophelia hears his name, she explodes, calling him out for selling his old teammates as slaves. Noel doesn't deny it. In fact, he doubles down, smirking that he'd do it again if it got him closer to his goals. Ophelia snaps and lunges, but Koba intercepts like a bodyguard on payroll, warning her he's ready to draw steel if she pushes it. Leon rushes over, but Noel flips the situation, calmly pointing out that Ophelia attacked first. And when it's laid out like that, Ophelia realizes she's just made her whole party look bad. Embarrassed, she apologizes to Leon, who in turn apologizes to Noel. But Noel doesn't let the moment die. He casually says Ophelia is dumber than a mutt, which finally ticks Leon off. The man wants to defend his teammate, but Noel twists the knife further, calling him a papa's hypocrite. Leon swallows his anger and leaves with his group, but not before Noel has sown the seeds of rivalry. Koga, unsettled, asks if Noel really needed to burn bridges like that, but Noel just grins. Every insult, every shove, it's all part of his bigger game. And the Winged Knights? They're just stepping stones. Meanwhile, at guild headquarters, Harold's granddaughter Marion corners him, asking who's going to lead the coming raid against the incoming Valiant Abyss. She bets on Leo Eden, the Kingslayer, since his strength is unmatched, though she admits Zeke Feinstein is a contender. But Harold? He calmly says, it'll be Noel. Marion nearly chokes. Noel's application was already rejected. Harold, though, knows better. Noel's the kind of boy who finds cracks in walls just so he can kick them down. He's so confident, he even makes a bet with Marion. If Leo leads, he'll quit and put her in charge. If Noel leads, Marion has to attend etiquette school. She hates the idea but agrees. Harold's grin says it all. Later, we get a peek into Leon's past with Kime. Back in the day, Leon was that kid who always got picked on for being too righteous, too unwilling to fight back. Kime defended him, and together they dreamed of becoming seekers, slaying abyssal beasts as a noble cause. Years later, they formed Twilight Glint, a name so bad people ignored it and just called them the Winged Knights, inspired by Leon's flashy finishing move. Leon's compassion and Kime's boldness became the team's backbone, but Leon never lost that hesitation, always afraid of risking his allies for victory. Even now, When Keem confronts him after the bar incident, he realizes Leon wasn't just mad, he was jealous of Noel. Not bitter, just envious of Noel's meteoric rise. But instead of sulking, Leon admits he respects Noel's drive. Keem, though, has his own plan. He pulls out a letter from the guild encouraging strong parties to form clans. He thinks it's time they leveled up. Turns out the whole crew got the same letter. Leon had wanted to talk about it earlier, but Noel's chaos derailed everything. With his team looking to him for guidance, Leon finally decides they're forming a clan. The next day, Leon and Keim head to the guild to seal the deal, only to have Harold slam the door in their faces. They meet every requirement, so what's the problem? Harold tells them straight, with a valiant coming, only clans ready to fight on the front lines are being accepted. He doesn't think they're serious enough. Keim snaps back, pointing out their Abyss level 7 win, but Harold cuts deeper. If they're so strong, why didn't they apply earlier? He claims they lack the obsession, the hunger, the killer drive that separates survivors from corpses. Keim fumes, asking why they even got letters if it was hopeless, but Harold casually reveals he never sent them. Must have been someone's idea of a prank. Leon tries one last time, begging Harold for a chance to prove themselves. After a pause, Harold gives them one final test. Take down a level 8 Abyss monster. Do that and they get their clan. But there's a twist. They're not the only ones who ask for a second chance. Another party's in the mix too. Leon and his crew will have to fight not just the monster, but the rival team competing for the same clan slot. And of course, you can guess who that rival is. Blue Beyond. Noel versus Leon. It's officially on. Harold gathers both groups together and wastes no time laying down the rules of the trial. The target is no ordinary Abyss monster. It's the Dantalion, a level 8 beast infamous for reading the minds of anyone who dares face it. It's not just a predator, it's sadistic, twisting failed challengers into playthings before torturing them to death. The challenge is simple in theory and brutal in practice. The first party to kill the Dantalion wins. To make things fair, Harold clarifies that direct killing between teams is forbidden guild rules, but sabotage and interference are perfectly legal, as long as everyone leaves alive. To keep them honest, Harold himself will be monitoring everything with his own skill. The rules seem clear enough until Noel raises his hand. Ever the schemer, he suggests that both sides should start the competition in top shape. No hidden injuries or sabotage beforehand. Harold approves, and since no one else has objections, the rules are locked in. Then Harold adds the real sting. This isn't just a test, it's do or die. Whichever team loses will be disbanded permanently, and their members banned from reforming. Anyone who defies that order will lose their license as seekers. No second chances. Leon and Noel both agree without hesitation. Leon with the dignity of a knight swearing an oath, Noel with the sly confidence of a gambler who already knows the outcome. The duel is set for 3 days later. When the day arrives, both squads gather at the Abyss's edge. Harold gives the signal, and the competition begins. Leon rallies the winged knights immediately, but Noel does something so absurd it nearly makes Leon's veins pop. He spreads out a blanket and starts having a picnic with his crew. Sandwiches in the middle of a death match. Leon can't believe it and shouts at him to take things seriously, but Noel just waves him off, saying his team can make the first move. Keem has to calm Leon down before his head explodes, reminding him not to waste energy on Noel's games. So the winged knights dive into the abyss first. Blades ready. Deep inside, Ophelia's keen ears pick up a swarm of monsters approaching fast, forcing the group to prepare for battle. But before they can strike, Vaslov speaks up with a revelation. Noel tried to recruit him before the match. Leon is stunned, but Vaslov isn't done. Ophelia admits Noel approached her too, and so does Keim. In fact, Noel tried to flip everyone except Leon. Leon's disbelief is written all over his face, but the rest of the squad laughs it off. None of them were convinced by Noel's talk of freedom, and they assure Leon they'd never betray him. Still, the seed of doubt is there, exactly what Noel wanted. And just in time, the monsters arrive, forcing them into action. Outside, Noel's squad continues their picnic, calm as monks, while Harold watches closely. Earlier, Noel had admitted to Harold that he forged guild letters to manipulate the winged knights into this match, and though Harold scolded him, he decided not to disqualify him. He wants to see how far Noel can go. When Harold asks if Noel really believes he can win, Noel doesn't hesitate. His grandfather raised him to always win, no matter the odds. Koga, though, is uneasy. He warns that the winged knights are strong enough to potentially slay the Dantalion without their interference. But Noel assures him it's all part of the plan. Leon may be talented, but that talent is also a burden. Noel has already sown the doubts that will splinter their trust, and when it counts most, they'll break. Sure enough, in the abyss, the fight against the Dantalion turns ugly. The winged knights tear through the small fry, but the boss monster is reading every move. Vaslov hurls a fire spell dodged. Ophelia tries to line up her bow interrupted before she can fire. The only one able to match it is Leon, whose Angel Wing skill boosts his mana flow and erases cooldowns, letting him fight on par with the beast. For a while, it seems like he might actually hold his own, but then the Dantalion leaps into the air, hurling a storm of boulders down on them. Leon shouts a warning, but not everyone escapes unscathed. Ophelia is crushed under the assault. Her arm takes the fatal blow. The monster cackles, calling Leon's companions weak toys, but Leon refuses to abandon anyone. He covers their retreat with a holy shield, activating his invincible skill to blind the beast and buy time to escape. Behind a concealment barrier, Vaslov works frantically to heal Ophelia, even reattaching her arm. She apologizes, ashamed of being dead weight, but Leon silences her with compassion. He'll never consider his allies burdens. Yet even Leon begins to wonder if they should retreat. Keem cuts him off with a desperate plan. He'll act as bait and draw the Dantalian in, giving Leon the opening to unleash his ultimate slash. Leon instantly refuses. The attack will burn out his last mana reserves, and worse, the wide area strike could kill his allies. Keem argues this is exactly how they won against the level 7 Abyss, and insists he'll dodge at the last second, but Leon points out the flaw. The Dantalion can read minds. It'll know Keem's a decoy before he even moves. Frustrated, Keem demands to know Leon's solution. Retreat means disbandment, but staying means death. After a heavy pause, Leon says there's another way. They can team up with Noel. The whole squad is stunned. Keem erupts in fury, shouting that Leon is insane to trust their rival. But Leon insists Noel might be ruthless, but working together is the only path that avoids needless sacrifice. To Keem, it feels like betrayal. Leon seems more willing to trust Noel than him, his own sworn brother. That breaks something inside him. With trembling hands, Keem plunges his blade into Leon's gut. Tears in his eyes, he confesses he's always been jealous of Leon's talent. He'd die for him, he'd kill for him, but he can't stand being second forever. And if Leon really trusts Noel more, then maybe their bond was never real. Before anyone can respond, the Dantalian crashes through the barrier, towering over them. Fear locks them in place, but then a gunshot cracks through the abyss. The bullet whistles past the monster's head, distracting it. Noel has finally arrived. He barks a command, and Koga dives from above. To the monster's shock, their moves can't be predicted. Noel's telepathic link allows his team to fight without conscious thought, making them unreadable. Worse, Noel himself is too fast, his strategist mind spinning so rapidly that the Dantalian can't keep up. The monster howls in pain, clutching its head, until in desperation it rips out its own third eye just to stop the mental onslaught. That's exactly the moment Noel was waiting for. He signals Alma, who darts forward with lethal precision. Alma bursts forward, acceleration skill blazing, and for a second it looks like she's about to land the finishing blow on the Dantalian. But Alma's not playing straight, she's setting up the ultimate fake out. Just as the monster rears back to counter, she slips into her new trick, Phantom. Her whole body phases right through its giant hand like she just ghosted reality itself. This slick move is a once-a-day cheat code, and Alma makes it count. With the Dantalian wide open, she shreds through its chest, carving a hole so clean it could pass a health inspection. And just like that, the Abyss trial ends. The Dantalian is toast, and Noel's crew claims the win. The cherry on top, Koga levels up mid-celebration, finally catching up to Noel and Alma. He gets cocky, rubbing it in Alma's face until Keem steps up and reminds everyone this entire setup was Noel's brainchild. Noel doesn't even try to deny it. He straight up admits he pulled the strings from day one. He pressured the guild to host the competition, handpicked the Dantalian as the target, and even forged fake letters to manipulate the Winged Knights into chasing clan status. Basically, the man rigged the board before anyone else even knew the game had started. Keem, shaking with rage, grabs Noel by the jacket, ready to throw him across the abyss for wrecking their squad. But Noel doesn't flinch. Instead, he calmly points out that their collapse wasn't all on him. Keem's jealousy of Leon drove him to betrayal, and that crack alone was enough to topple the whole squad. Sure, the Winged Knights were strong, but Leon was the only one truly built different. The rest were passengers, and their envy had been rotting the squad from the inside long before Noel gave it a nudge. He even flips it back on Leon, saying if Leon had trusted Keem more, maybe things wouldn't have fallen apart so explosively. Before things can get uglier, Harold steps in, announcing Noel's crew as the official winners and stamping them as a recognized clan. The Winged Knights, meanwhile, are disbanded on the spot. Word spreads fast, and the capital reels. Half the city can't believe their beloved Winged Knights got clowned this badly. Still, the rules are the rules, and Noel just played them better. The fallout is instant. Ophelia decides she's done with the Seeker life altogether. She says goodbye to Lisha and leaves I Try quietly, while Vaslov wastes no time jumping ship, signing with another crew the same day. Noel, meanwhile, heads straight to Hugo to give him the breakdown. Hugo isn't impressed. He calls the Winged Knights one of the few genuinely good squads out there and says their end is a loss for everyone. Noel, though, doesn't feel guilty in the slightest. To him, the Winged Knights were already doomed, and all he did was speed up the process. Hugo realizes Noel's real play. He's aiming to recruit Leon, but can't figure out how wrecking Leon's squad is supposed to convince him. Noel just smiles and tells him not to overthink it. He'll win Leon over and circle back for Hugo when the time's right. While Noel's plotting, Keem is drowning himself in booze at a bar, guilt gnawing at him. The bartender tries to talk sense into him, pointing out that wrecking his liver isn't fixing anything. Keem can't forgive himself for stabbing Leon, but the bartender makes it simple. If Keem really cares, he needs to set Leon free by owning up and telling the truth. Meanwhile, Leon's walking alone through the city when Edgar and his lackeys corner him in an alley. Edgar's been nursing a grudge for years, jealous past that Leon was everyone's golden boy while he was treated like trash. Now, with Leon broken and his squad gone, Edgar finally sees his shot. But before he can even blink, Noel and his crew roll in, dismantling Edgar's backup like they're swatting flies. Noel doesn't take kindly to Edgar mouthing off, so he teaches him a lesson, slices off his nose, stomps it flat, and tells him if he keeps acting like a dirtbag, his whole family will share the same facelift. Edgar flees in terror, leaving Leon stunned as Noel casually pivots to business. He invites Leon to join his clan, even offering him the vice master role. Leon, still raw from the loss of the Winged Knights, refuses at first. He blames Noel for the collapse, but Noel pushes back, insisting the squad was doomed anyway. Leon's overwhelming talent made the gap with his teammates unbearable, and jealousy was inevitable. Leon admits Noel might be right, but still struggles to let go of what the Winged Knights stood for. Noel presses harder, saying if Leon walks away now, all that legacy dies with him. Sometimes, he argues, protecting what matters most means putting yourself first. Leon thinks it over and asks Noel why he even became a seeker. Noel doesn't hesitate. His dream is to become the greatest seeker of all time, no compromises. That raw conviction shakes Leon enough to agree, but he lays down a warning. If Noel ever betrays that promise, he'll never forgive him. The two shake hands, sealing the deal. Not long after, Marion tears into Harold for letting Noel manipulate the whole trial, calling him slimy for wrecking the noblest squad around just to steal their leader. Harold shrugs it off. In his eyes, Noel created a stronger clan out of the ashes, and that's what matters. To prove it, he already has their next quest lined up, an Abyss level 9, with the ghost-controlling Wolf Garmer waiting at the core. When Wild Tempest steps into the city as an official clan, the crowd jeers at Leon, calling him a hypocrite for teaming up with Noel. Noel tells him to brush it off. Once they prove themselves, the same people won't dare talk trash. But then Kime storms in, screaming that Noel ruined everything and swearing he'll kill him. Leon steps between them, trying to calm his brother, but Kime calls Leon a traitor too. If Leon wants to protect Noel, then Kime will cut Leon down first. They clash right there in the street, and as Leon fights back, he realizes Kime's smirk isn't anger, it's pride. Kime's putting on a show, boosting Leon's image so people will respect him again. Leon keeps it clean, knocking Kime out without drawing his blade, and the crowd erupts in praise. As Leon walks away, he hears Kime quietly wishing him luck. He wants to turn back, but Noel stops him. This is exactly what Kime wanted. Leon needs to push forward now more than ever. Later, Noel reveals their new base, bought dirt cheap for 20 million because it's haunted. Leon remembers rumors that every past resident ended up cursed, but Noel just laughs and shows off his new exorcism skill, ghost problem solved. Then he unveils their clan emblem, a snake with angel wings, symbolizing the balance of good and evil. From now on, they'll be known as Wild Tempest. Their first mission together is to take down Garmer, and the beast immediately proves he's no joke. Garmer floods the battlefield with endless ghosts, overwhelming Noel's exorcism. The squad is forced back into a cave, battered and gasping. Garmer charges in, ready to feast, but Noel, as always, has a plan. He sprays a mist in the air, poison, crafted with Alma's blood, deadly to beasts like Garmer. The wolf mocks him, claiming poison won't stop him, but Noel smirks and reveals he's rigged the whole cave. The buildup overwhelms Garmer, and with one final shot, Noel finishes him off. Harold congratulates Wild Tempest on their first big win, but Noel's already looking higher. Becoming the greatest seeker of all time isn't just a dream for him, it's the only possible outcome. And now, with Leon at his side, he's closer than ever to making it real.